What's up, you mutts? It's another episode of the Kevin Clancy Show. You hear that? That's a nice cold Miller Lite being cracked. Cheers. It's our new presenting sponsor here at the Kevin Clancy Show. Now through the end of the year, which is huge news for me. I mean, on a personal level, Miller Lite is important to me because I've radically changed my life. I used to drink a different light beer growing up because of where I'm from, the bars that I went to, and what was served. And then Miller Lite came into my life, a couple of years ago, and they got down with me, and I got down with them in return. And I realized what I've been missing out on. And I completely made the switch, overhauled my entire life to the great taste, less filling of Miller Lite. It's only 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces, brewed in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I always celebrate it responsibly. And I encourage you to do the same if you are from, anywhere that didn't serve it, or if you're not already on the great taste, less filling bandwagon, you should get on it. And then on a professional level, I'm happy here that they joined up as a presenting sponsor for the Kevin Clancy Show through the rest of the year. It's been a big week because I not only had them sign up, and I feel like that's a good thing for the Kevin Clancy Show, which is like this podcast that was in a little bit of limbo. And obviously KFC Radio is the big one that I do. And then this one I do to keep up with my personal reps, my solo show, just so I have something in place for down the road, maybe. And I'm always getting my reps in and getting better at just talking into a mic. But this week was the 9-year anniversary of KFC Radio, and the presenting sponsor jumps on board for the Kevin Clancy Show. So I'm feeling good about myself. The 9-year anniversary for KFC Radio was something that, like, sometimes I think it feels longer. Sometimes I feel like it's shorter. And sometimes I forget at all. Like, people were like, congratulations. And I was like, for what? And they're like, KFC Radio. I'm like, I don't know. It's just, I've been doing this shit for a long time. Which is, cool. And I like to give myself credit for that. But then you see some news like Alex Cooper getting $60 million from Spotify. And it is a humbling moment. Alex Cooper is one of the most fascinating people to have ever lived. And certainly within the podcasting, internet, entertainment world, but maybe just straight up in the regular fucking world. $60 million is a number that is absolutely astronomical. And I think Alex went from this, like someone could write a book one day. I would love to sit down with her one day. You dig in deep on Alex Cooper and forget about her as a person. Like, I'm sure you could dive in deep on who she is as a woman and how she was raised as a girl and why she is the way she is and all that shit. But just her professionally in the last few years, you could write a dissertation on this girl, going from like new girl on the block to I disrupted this whole company and this whole industry, to, oh my God, she's actually a real big deal, to, oh my God, she is one of the most elite performers, entertainers, content creators to have ever lived. I mean, all of that to go down in a matter of, I don't know, it's a couple of years, or maybe it's like 3 or 4 years now. I don't even know, but meteoric doesn't even begin to describe it. And I'm still grinding it out after 9 years. And it is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what this girl does and earns. And that's not to say that I'm not doing anything, but, even after I've had a good career, enough to have built this thing and have equity and one day get the paycheck and like doing all right. And it is not even a fucking drop in the ocean. It is not a speck of fucking sand in the desert. She went to a whole other level of she went into hyperdrive, man. And when you do tell this, the one thing I wish is that, because my thoughts on Alex was like, there was overall, for sure, there is an absolute insane amount of bitterness and jealousy on my front towards someone doing what she's doing. She's succeeding far more than I have, making far more money than I have, all in a fraction of the time. So of course there's a part of me that's just like, man, fuck that and fuck her. But I think there's also, you also reach a point where it's like, you realize that all along you were dealing with like a LeBron of content creation, like in early beginnings, anybody who starts at Barstool or anybody who starts a new podcast, whether you're with the company or not, when you're in this game, somebody starts a new show, a new Twitter account pops up, a new personality, a new spinoff, whatever. There's some new content out there. You take note of it. You're like, oh, okay, let me size you up. Let me see what you got. Are you bigger than me, better than me? Am I ahead of you? Whatever. It's just human nature for any industry in any form of competition. And so when that starts off, it's like, I mean, I was dead wrong on her. And at the time it was them. I remember thinking we had just done KFC Radio with Asa Akira, and we had a very like sex heavy show. And she was a girl, Asa, who openly talked like extreme about sex. And at times it really turned off the audience where they're like, this is too much. And I remember thinking like, listen, from my own experience, guys, this just didn't play. There were times where people were just like not into it as much as we thought they were going to be. And I don't know whether there was a shift in the industry, in the market, or if the fact that Alex was just a normal girl and not a professional porn star, or just the way that Alex does it, it was obviously received wildly different. And maybe the fact that it was two guys and a girl, whereas Call Her Daddy was just women. There's a million different factors, but the underlying thing of like being girls talking about sex, I just watched it, not fail, but certainly not succeed on this level. And then I watch it, so then we bring someone in, and I'm like, I just, by my own experience, I don't think this is going to work. And then of course, being, 30, probably at the time, like 30 something year old guy. And you see like the young girl come in, and she's got like what do they call it? The vocal fry and the younger generation attitude. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know. This turns me off. I don't think this is it. Well, old man Clancy, like it was it, brother. It was fucking it. And so then, someone like that takes off, and across the board at Barstool, without gossiping and without speaking on anybody's behalf, of course, everybody else in every show was kind of like, is she that funny, or is it that good? Or, oh, my shit's better, or I think I'm funnier. How come it's not me? And you start to, compare and try to figure out, what's the difference, and why not me, and why her, and all that shit. And then you make it to a point like this where you're like, oh, wait a minute. You never even had a fucking shot. You were never in the same fucking league. I remember Dave saying that like what really clinched the deal for him was that she edited her own videos. And that's when he knew that she wasn't just like, I just press record and say some shit and then like hope for the best. Like she would see every episode through from the beginning to the end and have control of it and edit it in a certain way. And not because of like her editing skills, I don't think, but it was more that like she had a vision for what she was doing in every episode and what she was doing with the whole podcast. And I think that's the side of her that ends up making you $60 million. And for people like myself and other shows and other people at Barstool and other people all across the internet, because there was, there's a ton of other female shows in the realm. There's The Girls Gotta Eat and Guys We Fucked and all sorts of girl duos that were popping up and sex positive shows and all this shit. And almost every daddy issues, there's a million of them. And I'm pretty sure all of them would tell you that they were, in competition or hating on her or sizing her up or, don't get it. We don't like it. Why not us? And like, the truth is, it's like, bro, you whether it's those shows or my shows or any other shows, you guys don't realize, like, you never were in the conversation. We were in the rear view mirror of a girl like Alex Cooper from Jump Street. And I guess she knew that too. I always often talk on this show about like what it takes to be great and the type of attitude you need to have going into whatever field you're trying to tackle, whatever you're trying to take over. And you got to have that attitude of like, I am absolutely the fucking best, right? And for, for the guys like me, self-deprecating and self-aware and kind of pessimistic, it's like, I never had that. Even as I've succeeded at all, I'm always just like, what do they call it? Imposter syndrome or whatever, where it's like, I never had that thought. I would imagine Alex Cooper had that right away. She knew it and there was no stopping her. I don't think it was like I'm going to tell them. There's such a huge difference between looking yourself in the mirror and saying it and telling yourself and reaffirming it every day and actually believing it. It's like, I don't need to tell this to myself every day because I just know it. I'm not saying it out loud. I'm not proclaiming it because I'm trying to like will it into existence. It just is. I don't need to say it. I just know it. And I would imagine she had that view of herself from the very beginning. And the one thing I can say I still don't like about Alex is that like she never really interacted with any of us at Barstool. She never gave us the time of day. And that used to kind of rub me the wrong way. And I don't like it because to this day, like I said, I think she's a fascinating character that I would like to talk to and like understand more. And at this point, learn from and get inside her brain and talk about some of the ups and downs, mostly just ups. But again, then when you see news like this, you realize that, again, you were never even in you were never even in the room, dude. It's like, there's a reason why she wasn't like coming to Barstool and hanging out with the gang and doing all of our shows, because and I'm not speaking for her, right? If there's by some fucking, infinitesimal chance she or anybody else hears this that are involved in it, like, I'm not speaking for her or on her behalf, but I'm sure her thought process was like, guys, like I'm fucking light years ahead of all of you, and that's not to say you can't just be friendly to people. She's always been pleasant when she has been around, but it's like, there's really nothing for me here. It's like, complaining that, like I said, she's the LeBron of this shit. It's like, why won't LeBron play with like my men's league team? Like, yeah, man, no. I'm like on to much bigger and better things. And it's wild to even have been even slightly tangentially connected to someone who's had a run of this magnitude. Being a dude who set the podcast up 9 years ago, like I said, the anniversary of KFC Radio, we were the first Barstool show in the grand scheme of podcasting, one of the early adopters of it. We had Bobby Kelly on the show, New York City comic, on KFC Radio this past week, and he had his podcast 13 years ago. So like, I'm always trying to, almost every show that comes through, any guests we have, I ask how long they've been doing it, and very, very rarely does anybody predate us. I don't think any. I can't think of any. I mean, I know like Bill Simmons did. I know Mark Maron did, but nobody we talked to ever did. Bobby Kelly, I think, was the first guy we ever had on the show who had a podcast before us. And so being like a podcaster guy, like that was my claim. I remember Dave telling me, like, go have fun doing your little hobby, podcasting, because I don't see how, Dave said, I don't see how anybody can make money on podcasts. And here we are 9-10 years later, plenty of money being made and plenty of money being paid out to this girl who's in a matter of years turned herself from nobody to a $60 million like queen of the industry. And so being there's the bitter, wildly jealous part of me as a podcaster who's been grinding it out week after week forever, and I'll never even come close to that level. But being a dude who believed in the medium and believed in like the movement and that revolution, I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Like, fuck yes, the fact that this can happen, the fact that people legitimately now speak about her in the conversation with Joe Rogan, that is. And not just because of, they're both a Spotify deal now and big money. It's like, that's how much impact they had on culture. And to, Joe Rogan always just kind of was. Joe Rogan just always kind of existed. Oh, the podcast was just always there because he's one of those guys that predated all of us. But to see a new one come out and reach that level, and then also have it be under the same roof as my company. Again, I mean, Alex and Color Daddy was always separate. It was always like a subsidiary of Barstool. He was never really involved. So I can't say that it was like to see my coworker and like a person I worked side by side with and watched like grow. Because none of that happened. It was, but it was that much closer to me. It was, there was one degree of separation, one less degree of separation, let's say, where I did have a little bit more of a front row view, a front row seat to watch it happen. It's wild that it even can. Like, the industry is still set up in a way where if you come in and you fucking kill it, you will make the money. You can go from 0 to 60 million in a matter of a couple of years if you've got the goods. Every other industry in entertainment, every other sect of that industry, whether it's movies or television, music is kind of breaking down the barriers too, but television and movies, like, you can't just like burst on the scene and take it over and all by yourself and do it at warp speed and go from a nobody to tens of millions of dollars like that, because you got to go through studios and there's gatekeepers and there's producers and there's a whole fucking Me Too movement to overcome and a glass ceiling. And there's, the insider shit that goes on, all the scummy stuff where you've got to sometimes literally or metaphorically suck dick to get through. And there are guys who get, you get blacklisted and you get all the politics involved. There ain't none of that. Well, there's none of that. I should say there's none of that. But there is a fucking lot less of it on the internet, where it's a complete, again, not complete, I shouldn't say these things in certainty, but for the most part, a meritocracy, where if you come out and you put out new episodes, new videos, new whatever, new content, and it hits and people watch and people buy, right to the fucking top. And it doesn't matter, like, the way, like, the world is almost like YouTube. Like, if you look at the YouTube algorithm, it's set up in such a way where no matter how many people are on YouTube and no matter how many people are at the top, new creators, if they hit in a certain way, meaning, enough views and enough retention and enough minutes watched, the algorithm rewards you and shoots you to the top, puts you in front of everybody on all their pages, puts you in front of every eyeball, and you then pop, you then grow, and you ascend to the top. So it's designed to have the new guy on the block come in and find success. That's the way the world and the internet really is set up, where it's like there's already the royalty at the top of it, And in this case, using Barstool as the example, like, there's Dave and there's Pardon My Take as the royalty, and the Chicklets gang comes into. They're a little different because they've always kind of been like Call Her Daddy in the sense of like they were separate and joined up. But there was the royalty set in place at Barstool, and then throughout the internet, there's the other, whatever you like to watch or listen to. There was those podcasts set from the Serials and the Joe Rogans and the Bill Burrs and all that shit. And then Alex Cooper comes along, and it's like she is now toe to toe with all of those guys because there was no boundaries for her to get through. And that's why, as like I said, as a podcaster, like, I love to see it happen. Wish it was me. Not obviously, but that, and that's where it's like on a personal level versus a just professional level. Looking at that happen in this industry, I think is fucking incredible. That, one girl with a partner can put out, a couple episodes, a couple pictures of you in the tabloids, take a meeting with a guy, impress enough, and, snap your fingers, do some episodes 3-4 years later, $60 million. Crazy, dude. It's, it's one of the, and you might not like it because you don't like her personally. You might not like it because you don't like her show, her subject matter, her voice, her style. You might not like that it's just talking about sex. You might not like that it's, an exaggerated, hyped up, over sexualized type show where she's telling girls to suck dick and cheat on their man or fuck men and be a sugar baby, all this shit that is like clutch your pearls and run away. You might not like any of that, but you can't knock the hustle, man. You can't hate on where it's taken, where she's gone with it. Like if you're hating on Alex Cooper for her success, like you are just a true blind hater, because there's nothing, they say the proof is in the pudding. There's nothing but pudding. She's drowning in pudding, bro. She's fucking drowning in pudding, from her merch sales to the downloads to all the money, all the press, all the fame. Like, it's undeniable. It's a weird case because every comment, tweet, forum, whatever, you see a ton of negative feedback, a ton of hate, which always, when you're at the top, you get a lot of hate, right? But usually there's also a lot of public love to offset it. And you don't see much of that. Like, I'll see, and I'm removed from it, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you follow the right people and you roll in the right TikTok circles and Instagram circles, you'll see plenty of it. I've certainly seen my share of daddy gang members and shit like that. But it does seem like the public feedback was always more negative than positive. But that's the clearly then it's the greatest example of the silent majority versus the vocal minority, because the amount of merch that girl moves, if you were to just go by some Twitter comments and some blog comments, you would think, this is trash and no one's watching, no one's listening, no one's buying. And then, one hoodie alone is making millions of dollars. And, one podcast is doing, 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 20 times, 50 times some of your favorite Barstool podcasts. It's something where, like, I guess for the average hater and the average consumer to realize that, like, you can't go by those metrics. You can't go by what the average, schmuck Twitter account is saying, because obviously there's a lot more that goes on beneath the surface. It's a staggering accomplishment. And I cannot imagine what is going through the mind of Sofia with an F, Sofia Franklin. The same way that I cannot even imagine what goes through the mind of a guy who wakes up in the morning and doesn't put on a bare bottom shirt. Bare bottom clothing. I'm wearing it right now. I'm wearing the black tee. The black tee is so comfortable, and also, the black slims makes you look better. Bare bottom clothing is the only clothing worth wearing. I have every single t-shirt and every single long sleeve t-shirt in every color at this point, because once you go bare bottom, you can't go back. Like, once you put on a regular t-shirt after this, it absolutely doesn't compare. So with the summer coming, you need lightweight shirts that still look good, but let you breathe and feel light, so you're not going to sweat through them. And so bare bottom's the only way to go for this summer, especially now that the world is back. You get back out there. You're going to be going out to places, out to dinner, out to crowded bars, out to games. And so comfortable, stylish clothes that don't cost you an arm and a leg. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, baby. That is the name of the game. Right now, you can get 2 pairs of their stretch shorts plus one of the moisture wicking tech tees, all for under $100. So you can get the tops and the bottoms, a whole set for the week for under $100. And right now you get free shipping on that first order of super comfortable threads when you go to barebottomclothing.com. Use code Clancy. That's bear like the animal, BEAR, bottomclothing.com. Use code Clancy and get free shipping on your first order. I mean, Sofia with an F. The same way that I used to hate on Alex and be jealous in a way, and then it turned to like admiration and just be like, tip your cap. And now I actually like respect it, and I'm like fascinated by it. In that same regard, I went from like, Sofia, you're so fucking dumb and you deserve it for the way you handled all this, to I just feel bad at this point, because she did overplay her hand. She was an absolute asshole. She got completely played. She got completely duped. She tried to snake her way through it. She tried to backstab her way through it. And, you can't outsnake a snake. in Portnoy. You can't out rat a rat. And as we've learned, you're not gonna, beat Alex Cooper in this game of business or content. So in that regard, stupid. You bit off way more than you can chew. You jumped in the deep end. All of those euphemisms for like you were so out of your league and so out of your depth. And so in that regard, you don't deserve any sympathy. You tried to play hardball and you got absolutely fucking demolished. But man, when it's numbers of this magnitude, like I thought it was bad enough when she turned down $500K. Her salary was going to be $500,000 and she was going to control her own IP. And that was bad enough. And now you turn around and you realize it's a $60 million deal. And that to me is like all of that other shit aside that I just said, still true. But man, that makes you just go like, sorry, fucking, that hurts. 60. Because you know what? Like Alex didn't miss a fucking beat when she went solo, or maybe got better, like got bigger. I'm not sure. But if Sofia was still around, that show would have still been like the same, and probably she could have been a part of that Spotify deal. You know what I mean? And she's probably sitting with that fucking dude who looks like Quagmire, being like, "Remember when you told me like we were gonna go to Luminary and make all this money, and now I just do like a podcast that's like one trillionth the size, while Alex goes on to make fucking pro athlete money." 60 million over 3. That's like Jordan numbers at the end of his run with the Bulls. Fuck, man, that absolutely hurts. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the actual podcast. And by the way, I think Barstool came out like as I hate to even act like I'm like as a part of this, because I'm really not. I'm working at Barstool, but I've never been a part of any. I've never been privy to any negotiations or conversations or anything like that. So I'm just barely a coworker who's watching basically along with the rest of the world. But having an interest in this company and knowing how much fucking money Alex made for us, part of me was like, oh fuck, that's a huge hit that we're going to take to the bottom line. Knowing that Dave and Erica and Barstool got to retain her merch. And I mean, like, yeah, obviously she probably kills it with advertising and downloads and shit, but everybody knows that her real money is in the merch. And so like, that's unbelievable that we still have our same or relatively same merch deal with her, because, you still get to make money off of Alex Cooper's best branch of her business while not having to pay upwards of $60 million. I will say, as someone who's been around here from, the inception of the expansion years of Barstool, when Dave said on his show that Alex was like talking about taking a hometown discount and they were trying to sign her and that Barstool could have made a competitive offer, that's crazy to me. Because when I saw the $20 million thing, I was like, oh wow, that's a big number. And then people were saying, a 3-year deal. And I was like, that kind of makes sense then, like 20 million over 3. And then I heard it was 60, it was 20 per. And I was like, that can't be right. That's just got to be, someone ran with the wrong numbers. Almost the opposite of Rogan. When Rogan's deal went through and it was $100 million, I was like, that seems low. And then like rumors were that it's 100 million per. I was like, that makes more sense. This was the opposite. I was like 20 over 3. That seems to be more reasonable. And then I hear Dave talking about it and see like every outlet under the sun talking about it. She didn't want to come on and talk exclusive numbers, but that sounds to be it. Like, so no, 20 per year. But I like that to think that Barstool is at that level where we could be tossing around again, like pro athlete money. You're signing a girl to what would a hometown discount be, like 15 million? Oh man, I don't know. I can't believe that we are a company that could throw around 15 mil or 10 mil or whatever the number is. Anything, whatever you consider to be a hometown discount of 20 million per. The fact that we are at that level, and I guess it just makes sense. It's like, yeah, we can pay you 10 if you can bring in 12 or whatever, But man, that is a number for someone who's been around. When there was a time when Dave, we couldn't pay Feidelberg's $400 a month stipend check. Dave used to just be like, here's $400 cash. Like, thanks for the blogs and thanks for the intern work. And there was a time where he sent an email to me being like, yo, that monthly payment can't happen anymore. And that was before the blackout tour came and saved us. But, to be around in the days where $400 a month was like, can't happen anymore, to maybe we could compete with this company who's offering a $20 million a year contract. Again, it's awesome to be in that company. I got equity here and I helped build it, and I cannot believe that we're at that level. But also just being an employee here, it's like, can I get some of that? Can I if there's $20 million a year floating around, can I just like skim a few pennies off the top, like in Office Space and Superman 4? Can we just round up on Alex Cooper's contract and siphon that money to my account? And again, that's something that, like, probably in the past with Alex, I would have been like, oh, fuck, like, I should get some of that money, or like, I deserve it. Or there's plenty of people here who were before her who built this, and blah, 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 all this loser talk type shit. And then you realize that, like, bro, when you make that money, every step along the way with Call Her Daddy, it was like, you can't be mad at any of the numbers we're talking about because they make that much money for the company and they do that many downloads. It was like never a moment where they were overpaid. They were probably almost always underpaid until now. So it's crazy that, to even think that that little old company that, the little engine that could is now, I mean, we didn't do it, but the fact that was even on the table. When I saw that, I thought it was like, yeah, no, this is just like, see you later. You just, are way too expensive now. But the fact that it was even a negotiation is like, God damn, Barstool Sports really is this $1 billion mega company that can toss around cash like that. So that is the Alex Cooper era of Barstool Sports. And it's one that, like, I just would love to talk more on it or learn more on it and do a behind the blog all after the fact, because, maybe it's funny. It almost feels like Alex Cooper would be like more attainable now that she's not a quote unquote coworker, where it's just like, yo, can, you sit down with this other entity and do this other interview, and you don't have to feel like you're stooping to the level of these like coworkers who are not, on the same tier as you. So maybe one day it'll happen. I would have a zillion questions, because again, it went from a place of like jealousy and not understanding and not like accepting the fact that like the market and the industry and fan bases and the entire medium went a certain direction, to a level of just like respect and admiration and being like, God damn, like how, where, how, what, when, where, why, like, how did you do all this and how did you pull it off in a world like, if you're mentioned in the same breath as Rogan and all those shows, it is fucking unbelievable. So the Alex Cooper era and the Call Her Daddy era pseudo ends at Barstool Sports. Like, not really, because we're still doing merch with her, and it sounds like Dave's going to do collabs of some sort with her. Although we've heard that before, like Alex is going to be a part of the shows. She's going to be in the office. Like, yeah, probably not. But the fact that we're still making money off of her and with her is, you can't really call it the end of the era, but certainly a quick one. But, it's very rare for someone to like out Barstool, but in a way, not in a way, like in every way, she did it. Like, came in like a motherfucking wrecking ball, to quote her girl Miley Cyrus, and did it like fast, dirty, and dominant. Out negotiated everybody, really, like pushed everyone around the ring in that first round of negotiations. Ends up pulling off this $60 million heist. And in the end, I think it's like a win-win though. It's like Barstool gets money off the merch and doesn't have to pay this insane bloated contract. I will say, I don't think what Spotify is doing works. I think it depends on, like how they're approaching it. Like, you drop $100 million a year on Rogan and $20 million a year on Alex, and like the Joe Budden show was another million here and there, just throwing like big bucks for people to come over exclusively. And I don't think I'm sure on some level it's translating to more people using Spotify and just making Spotify their official podcast app. But also we've seen like Rogan's influence is just not what it was, because his viewership was just cut in half or more so. Like it used to be, if you went on Rogan, he was like the kingmaker. If you're one of the comics that gets a Rogan appearance, pow, you've made it. If you get multiple appearances, like you are on the map. Tim Dillon, I feel like, was like the last one to do it. Tim Dillon now is making $170K a month on Patreon. He came on the KFC Radio. He was making like $40K a month. Obviously great, like doing well, but like right around then, probably because of his KFC Radio appearances, bam, $170 million a month. But that was because he did Rogan, I think, like 7 times, he says. And so I think, was the last one. Schultz got it too. Like the Midas touch from Joe Rogan. This stuff is brilliant. Take a look at this video. And everybody saw it because it was on YouTube and it was on Apple, and he was getting his 190. I think I still don't know. The problem with podcasting, these numbers, like the fucking Wild West, where it's like, there was reports saying that Joe Rogan was getting 190 million downloads per month. And it's like, I guess I could believe it, like 3 times a week with that many listeners for a month long, like sure. But, there's different companies measuring and different metrics to measure. And it's like still the Wild West out here. So, but, if you're even in that ballpark, and he has the YouTube channel and the YouTube's Clips channel. And so you got in front of these people and you got in front of the world, because that's the kind of reach that Joe Rogan has. And now he has the Spotify reach. And it's like, it really isn't the same. I don't think as many people listen, even though you could. I like Spotify because you can, all in one app. If you want to watch the video, it's right there. And if you're driving, you put your phone down, you want to listen to the audio, it's right there too. You don't have to open up different apps or different tabs or whatever. It's all just in one spot. So it's actually good, and it's very the interface is intuitive, but I just don't think as many people are using it. And so you just kind of lose that reach. And I think the same thing will happen with Alex. But I think the merch is what matters. Like if Spotify paying for the actual audio and I guess video of Alex is like not her most valuable trade, I don't think. So I feel like these are like bloated contracts that put you on the map. And I feel like if you're trying to steal market share from a giant like Apple, you got to just bowl people over with the biggest names. Like Joe Rogan is the biggest male name. Alex Cooper is the biggest female name. You go get someone like Budden on a much lower level to get like the urban market. You get everybody from these, 4, 5, 6 pillars of like the market that you need, and let's overpay them. Or in this case, pay them what they're worth, but let's make sure we are the offer. And it's like undeniable. You have to come, use Spotify, but I don't know. I feel like you're kind of getting sometimes people at their peak or at their most expensive. And like, how does that work? If you're paying Alex for Call Her Daddy and the vast majority of her subscribers are on Apple, what are you even fucking paying for? You're paying for Alex, of course, the exclusivity to hopefully grow the Spotify subscribers. Of course, I'm not an idiot. I get it. But really, you're not getting anything subscriber wise from that first cash outlay of $20 million. It's like you already had her Spotify listeners. Now you just got to hope that, the vast majority of those Apple people come over. But the fact that, hey, we like, that's the whole fight over the IP is fighting over of course, the name and the intellectual property in that regard, slogans and whatnot. But also, the subscribers and the RSS feed of the iTunes channel. And it's like, you're not using that anymore. You're just Spotify. So really, what is that, what is that worth anymore? So I do feel like these deals are kind of inherently bad. I think they know that. I think to a degree, they're just okay with that because, again, they're just trying to take down Goliath, and they got to steal as many eyeballs in your ears as possible. But I think I'd be okay being Dave. He seems like pretty cool with it. And I don't think that's a front. I don't think it's like behind closed doors. He's like, oh, fuck. I think everyone's like, oh, fuck. That's a huge chunk of money and revenue that we're not getting. But I think it's being pretty honest. Like, I don't know if it's worth all that, to be honest. It's not a knock on her. It's just, I don't think that sum of money can possibly be worth what you get in return if it's not the merch and it's not all the Apple subscribers. You're just getting like the right and the hope to grow your subscriber base with Alex like pushing you. She barely bought into a company like Barstool, who is worthy of buying into, who is like, we have the right attitude, and most people respect it, and something they would at least want to be a part of or respect being a part of. She barely did that. Just being a part of like the giant that is Spotify. I can't exactly see Alex Cooper go be like Miss Spotify, rocking the gear and hyping it up all the time. I think she's just like, I am what I am. And, it's your work. It's your job to make it work for you. But it's like I said, the end of that Barstool era, which is a quick one, but one of, probably the most, Dave used the term like culturally relevant. I think to call her daddy, it'll one day when the book is written, it will be which podcast broke out of the Barstool bubble more, pardon my take, or Call Her Daddy. And then I think Call Her Daddy did it in a faster and more like radical fashion, where it was just like, we just grabbed every fucking slutty college girl and person who never even like listened to podcasts or anything in the first place. Whereas Pardon My Take had a methodical, they were meteoric as well, but just over the years, just like beat down every Barstool hater and every sports journalist denier. Eventually was just like, these guys are too good and too funny. Who cares, if what Dave said or what KFC said or what anybody else at Barstool does, like they're that good. So that'll be the story one day. Obviously, Pardon My Take has the years on them and will continue to do it. But those two are the ones that like really took the Barstool platform, but then made their own on top of it, stood on the shoulders of Barstool. So, and that's the internet, man. And the internet, let me tell you something, is not a fucking friendly place. I don't know how many times I can reiterate that. And we saw it this year. We saw it this week again with fucking Chrissy Teigen. So once again, I have to give you a PSA that the internet ain't a nice place. It's not a place it's all like smooth and happy, like your junk when you use Manscaped. When I use the Lawnmower 4.0, everything's smooth, everything's clean, everything's nice. There's no blood, there's no pain. It's the complete opposite of the internet. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof, so you can use it when you're wet, and it's nick proof, so you're not going to hurt yourself. Everything's going to be smooth and clean. You put on the serums and the lotions and the balms afterwards to make sure that everything stays clean and smells good fragrance. And then you put on the Manscaped boxers, which are moisture wicking, so you don't sweat and get disgusting in them. It's the full package from beginning to end of keeping your package clean and hygienic. So right now, go to manscaped.com, use promo code Clancy, and get 20% off plus free shipping. That's manscaped.com, promo code Clancy. You can get the crop shaver, you can get the lawn mower, you can get the crop preserver, all the different types of razors, where you can cut from every angle and keep everything nice and creamy, clean. The exfoliator, the gel, all of it. Manscaped.com, promo code Clancy. Chrissy Teigen wrote her, as everyone was calling it, her, what did they say? Your regularly scheduled monthly apology from Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Teigen was the clapback queen, and she was the queen of Twitter. And I've always kind of liked Chrissy, but it's getting harder and harder to defend her like internet usage after, she denounced trolling and hated people who are mean on the internet. And then she's since been exposed by a whole fucking slew of people saying you're an asshole. So every month, every week, Chrissy has to come out and apologize. First, she had to apologize for Courtney Stodden. Now she's apologizing to this dude, Michael Costello. So here's the story. Michael Costello worked at Project Runway, and I guess worked alongside Chrissy Teigen, who was a model, and I'm sure they crossed paths or were on the same show at some point together on Project Runway. Apparently, allegedly, there was a photoshopped picture or some sort of photoshopped Instagram post that made it look like Michael Costello was a racist and was using slurs towards Chrissy Teigen. Now, Michael Costello says that was proven to be fake, and Instagram took it down, but not before Chrissy Teigen saw it, ran with it, called him a racist, and said to his face, "Your career is done. Every door in this industry is going to be shut to you." Now, Michael Costello has come out and said, "This led me to having suicidal thoughts, that he has for the last 7 years lived with a deep, unhealthy trauma where I have thought about taking my own life, and that he suffered in silence because there was no way he could escape it. He was the target of cyber defamation. He was getting blacklisted in real life. And he told his family recently that he thought about taking his life because it was the only way out. And so he wrote these personal letters saying, I'm going to take my life because it's the best way out. And there's no way I can escape this false narrative that Chrissy Teigen put out." And so he comes out and puts out this letter. Chrissy Teigen has to come out and write her own open letter, once again apologizing, saying, "That's not me. I've changed. And I'm not looking for sympathy or anything, but I'm trying to be a better me." As soon as that happens, Leona Lewis, remember her? Leona Lewis wrote, I think, "Burning Love." No, I can't sleep. I can't sleep. Right, whatever that one. What was her fucking jam? She had one that was like a fucking bop. And she was like "Bleeding Love," right? That was her big one. She comes out and writes an open letter about Michael Costello saying, "Oh yeah, well, you made me suicidal and deeply traumatized and depressed. You are a scumbag too." So the story that goes with him, Leona Lewis showed up to a runway show that Michael Costello was a designer for. The dress that she was supposed to walk the runway in didn't fit her because she's not a traditional model type, not model body type. And Costello was like, yeah, we'll fix it, and then never did. So she never got to walk the runway. She never got to be a part of the show. And it was all because they were like, I'm not changing my dress to fit this girl who doesn't even look like a model. So she comes out with her own letter, her own Instagram post being like, "Oh yeah, well, fuck you. You're just as bad as Chrissy was to you. You humiliated me. I felt awkward. I felt uncomfortable. And, I didn't get to be a part of this show that was supposed to be, such a big deal for me." So, it's like the whole internet with these guys is like the scene in The Office where Andy and Dwight and Michael are fucking pointing their guns at each other. Like, and I don't know how many more times we're going to go through this before we just accept the fact that the internet is not a nice place and that everybody has skeletons. Everybody has been an asshole. Everybody has been a troll. Everyone has said nasty things at some point. And rather than just spend the next however long it takes to expose every fucking person, I'm going to tear you down. And then you're going to tear me down. And then she's going to tear you down. And he's going to tear that person. And we're just going to keep fucking going like dominoes. At what point can we just accept that not every single thing you say, tweet, or post on the internet is going to be nice? And that not like an entire body of work on the internet can be judged with like just a black, white, good, bad, nice, mean. There's always going to be extenuating circumstances. There's always going to be moments of weakness. There's always going to be times where you're kind. There's always going to be times when you're rude and mean. Like it's just crazy that we have not really caught up to the internet at all. We have fully immersed our society in the internet and social media without understanding like the consequences of it. We have not caught up to the reaction of the internet at all. And it's like we just keep doing it. Like we're just fucking lemmings. We just keep going over the edge. We're just in a revolving door here. It's like whack-a-mole. It's just like we're just bopping each other over the fucking head. You're canceled. No, you're canceled. You're an asshole. No, you're an asshole. I'm suicidal. No, you're suicidal. You caused me to be suicidal. Well, you caused me to be suicidal. It's like, and I don't mean to be mean about it. And like, I'm sure this guy, Michael Costello, felt this deep trauma, but it's like, yeah, man, somebody was mean to you on the internet. And Leona Lewis, like someone was mean to you in real life. And like, you know, we got to toughen up a little bit. If you're gonna live in this modern world of the internet with fame and money and competition, you got to toughen up. You know, you can't just like get to the top and sit on your little pillow eating from your silver spoon and, you know, cry when someone's mean to you, or be, you know, upset when an Alex Cooper swoops through and fucking knocks you off your high horse, or, you know, someone, you're dressed didn't fit and they were mean about your size. And like, these things are all obviously mean and everybody processes it differently. But if we're just going to point the finger on the internet every time something bad happens, or every time you remember what trauma you went through 10 years ago, we're just gonna fucking be here for goddamn ever. I don't know how else to say it other than like, you gotta just either like get off the internet or play by the rules, meaning like accept what it is you're playing. It's like, you know, if you play in the mud, you're gonna get dirty. If you play football, you're gonna get tackled. You know, you get in a boxing ring, you're gonna get punched. You go on the internet, people are going to say nasty things about you. People are going to try to tear you down. People are going to come after you. They're going to troll you. They're going to troll your family. They're going to do it anonymously. Like, that's the fucking game, man. People are going to dig up old shit about you. You know, you're the Bachelorette. You got videos talking about doing anal and shitting on a dick. People are going to find it. You know what you know what Katie Thurston, the Bachelorette, did? Nothing. She rolled with the punches. Now, obviously, that wasn't nearly as negative, but you have a video up and all of a sudden people are talking about how you're trash because you do anal sex and you're not a good role model anymore. You know what she said? I don't fucking care. Check out this other video where I talked to my mom about whether or not she shit on a dick. You know, it's like there's two ways you can run with the internet. And I'll tell you another fucking thing about the internet. I'm done with the celebrity boxing angle. We did it to death. We overdid it and we did it too fast. Too many pay-per-views, too many different grudges, too many different names. It's over. There was a small window where it was interesting because you couldn't just talk shit. You had to be able to be willing at least to back it up if someone did challenge you to fight in the ring. And now I'm over that novelty because it's so much better to me when it's and maybe this is because I can't fucking fight and I don't ever want to get called out and jump in the ring. But when it's a battle of wit and humor and words, like who can concoct the funniest tweets and blogs and who could, you know, dominate who in a debate or an argument or clowning you on the radio show or the podcast. So much better than just getting two fucking slobs in the ring. And I say slobs, meaning guys who don't know how to box, who don't know how to throw punches. And, you know, it's either a lopsided fucking dominating W for one guy, or it's a sloppy haymaker fest. And they make a boatload of money. We pay for a shitty pay-per-view. And then we sit there with our dick in our hands being like, well, that sucked. I'm over it, man. Come up with a different way. I'd much rather like roast battles. I'd much rather debates. I'd rather some of these guys, like, you know, you want to defend yourself as a TikToker versus a YouTuber. Like, tell me why your content's funnier and why you're a more successful business person. That to me is more interesting than watching like a bunch of haymakers. I don't fucking care. One guy gets knocked out, one guy wins, and that doesn't settle shit in my mind. So I'm over that. We gotta grow and evolve on the internet to understanding that fucking some things are just not meant to be, and some things are going to be mean, some things are going to be funny, and deal with it on the internet. Get over it in real life. You don't need to get in a boxing ring to do either of those things. Just use your fucking brain to get through it. Man up, power through it. And that's not to say that you can't, you know, I'm not putting down mental health problems. I'm not saying you can't be depressed. All these, it all is depressing. It all is traumatic. I for sure know that. But that's also the game, man. It's the price you pay. You get in this shit, the chance to become the next Alex Cooper and make $60 million from Spotify comes with the risk of maybe being trolled and ostracized and made fun of, and a healthy dose of depression and a healthy dose of paranoia and all the things that come bad with the internet. That's the fucking game. Either sign up and play by the rules or get the fuck out. But enough with the finger pointing and the open letters and the blaming, and enough with the boxing. Just be an adult about it and anonymously roast somebody on the internet. Be an adult about it and try to cram all of your thoughts on the matter into 240 characters while calling someone an asshole. That's what the internet's all about. That's how you handle your life on the World Wide Web. That's how you do it on the bird. Fucking either do it or get the hell out.
All right, thanks for watching. Make sure that you click that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and leave a comment below. I'll chop it up with you in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about today's episode, as well as what you want to hear in the future.